Oh, it.
By the way.
Okay, is this thing on? Hello?
Not yet. Not
Oh.
yet. Hold on.
Are we clear? What's it, Willy Wonka kid? Hey, are we clear? Are we open? Is this thing on?
You are now live.
Are we live? Hello?
Do it, Brent Musburger. Do it.
Is anybody out there? You are looking live at Vikings Report with Drew and Ted as we cover our day one NFL legal tampering Lollapalooza. Happy legal tampering day. Happy Julius Caesar got murdered by the entire Roman Senate day. We've got Drew Bunting, we've got Christopher Gates, and we've got Toonces to cover everything that's happened so far today. We'll start with our good friend and purveyor of the Daily Norseman, Christopher Gates. Chris, first of all, thanks for coming on. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right, Ted. I just want to point out that legal tampering is still quite possibly the dumbest phrase in all of sports because if it's legal, it ain't tampering, and if it's tampering, it ain't legal. But we're gonna do this anyway. So
all right.
I am happy to be here, and I am happy as hell that you guys are having me here because this is gonna be pretty sweet.
I think so. Mr. Drew Bunting, how are you doing, sir?
I love me some tampering.
That's what she said.
I've been Are we really live?
We're live.
Oh yeah, baby! What up, Chris Gates? What up, Ted Glover?
You need to save that for Vikings Report After Dark. People have to pay extra for that kind of thing.
Yeah,
we are going to do a Vikings Report After Dark. It's in the works.
Ruby, how you doing? You there with us tonight?
Where's Toonces?
She's muted.
I'm here.
All right.
I'm nervous as hell, so hang on there.
We got people showing up? We got people showing up or what?
There are.
First of all, I just want to say thanks to Toonces for getting this all set up, and Elizabeth, and so the success of this show is going to be based largely on their technological prowess. But
certainly not us.
Because you got three morons talking football. This is just doomed for failure. But so day one, legal tampering. Couple of big deals that happened. There were in the NFL, not on the Minnesota Vikings, about the only action or noise that's happened for the Minnesota Vikings so far today is that longtime reserve tackle Rashad Hill has signed a 1-year deal. Chris, what are your thoughts on Rashad Hill coming back into the fold for the Vikings?
Chris is fired up.
I don't hate it or anything. I mean, your team needs Rashad Hills on it somewhere. Not Rashad Hill specifically, because that would be weird. But guys like Rashad Hill that don't make the millions of dollars, he can play either tackle spot. So I thought I saw something on social media that the Vikings picked him up off the Jacksonville practice squad in 2016. There's only, I believe they said 7 guys on this team that have been on the roster longer than Rashad Hill has. And he seems like he just kind of got here a little while ago, but yeah.
He just showed up off the street, hopped off the train and said, "Hey, I'd kind of like to play football for you. What do you think?" Yeah, come on. Yeah. We'll give you a shot. Drew, what do you think about Rashad Hill coming back?
I'm a lot happier if somebody goes out that they're going to be nuts and Rashad Hill's going in there because at least I know something about him rather than Joe Schmuckenberg from Bologna Tech. I mean, we've seen Rashad Hill play. I don't know if he's a starting left tackle, but we don't need him to be. He's a swing guy. He can play left tackle. He can play right tackle. He's a good backup. He's going to come in and still be able to get the job done. And that's really what you need out of your backup. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I mean, Rashad Hill is not a signing that is going to set the world on fire. But like Chris said, you've got to have guys like Rashad Hill. You've got to have depth. One of the things Drew and I have talked about, Chris, since we started the show is the Vikings roster depth has just gotten worse and worse over these last couple of years. So you got to have a guy like Rashad Hill. But that's really not the big news with regards to the Vikings offensive line position, at least yet, although free agency is very, very young. In kind of a surprising move. I kind of thought it was going to happen, but then I thought Riley Reiff was going to get re-signed, and now it turns out he was in fact cut. Chris, what are your thoughts on Riley Reiff saying farewell to the Vikings and how that plays out for the offensive line? How do you see that shaking out?
I mean, I'm kind of surprised it happened. I mean, you see the money that's already being thrown around for offensive linemen, like Joe Thuney getting the gross domestic product of Denmark per year from from Kansas City. So, I mean, the Vikings asked Reef to redo his contract or whatever, and he probably just said, you know what? I can get more money on the open market than I can here. So he said no, and the Vikings got rid of him. So as far as what happens with the offensive line, I mean, this time last year you drafted Ezra Cleveland ostensibly because, you were going to have to move on from Riley Reef at some point. And hey, guess what? You're moving on from Riley Reef now. And so I think you're going to wind up seeing Ezra Cleveland over there at left tackle because, that's what they drafted him to do, unless they were so much at guard that they're willing to spend like number 14 on one of those top offensive tackles that you guys talked about the other day. But no, I think the move is going to be Ezra Cleveland to left tackle at this point, but that I'm speculating way early on that, obviously, so I don't know for sure.
Drew, what do you think?
I'm happy to see all these people showing up in the group. I agree with our esteemed guest. How about that, Christopher Gates? So glad you're here.
Is there someone else here?
I think they're gonna. I think they are truly going to try to use Cleveland out there, and he looked good at Boise State playing left tackle. I didn't see a lot of problems with his game. He handled the edge rushers really well. I'm not sure really why they didn't at least get him out there and try it last year just to see. I mean, they know more about what's going on in positionally than I do, but I think they're going to swing him out there. And then I'm still suspecting within the next 10 days, us landing a guard in free agency and then filling the other guard spot, maybe with Wyatt Davis or something from the draft. But I think they do want Cleveland to play out there. It's a tough position. And it's not, some people like to say, well, we'll just put Cleveland out there. And there's a lot more to it than it's a tough spot. It's a tough position to play.
The thing that I don't want to say bothers me because I kind of, that's always my position. You draft a guy to be your left tackle of the future. It's time to become the left tackle of the present. The only problem with that is they put him inside at right guard last year after I think it was Drew Samia was not good. And he played okay. So by moving him out to left tackle now, you've got to, you kind of solve one problem, but now you have two interior line positions that you're going to have to deal with. And as we've seen at least through day one of free agency, guys like Joe Thuney are making serious bank, and the Vikings right now only have, I want to say $12 or $13 million of cap space. So they're going to have to be really selective in who they get and quite frankly, who they can afford. But it's two positions that I would argue that they need to address at least one of them in free agency.
I think the reason that they want to move Cleveland out there is that starting the season with two rook dogs at your interior guard positions, man, the finding somebody in free agency is kind of what I meant. They want to fill a free agency role and then a rookie. Hopefully, I want him to go after Forrest Lamp. I think he guy's a really good player.
I love Lamp.
I love Lamp.
I think Forrest Lamp could be the guy. He had some injury problems when he started his career, but I remember doing a draft write-up on him, and I think the injuries are behind him. And last year, he played every single snap for every one for the Chargers.
Okay,
and had one false start penalty.
Really?
So I don't know if he's meant for this team, but
yeah, that seems far too disciplined and efficient to be an offensive lineman for the Minnesota Vikings. But we'll see what happens.
No, that's coachable.
You know what, guys? With Reef now gone, it certainly opens up a lot of questions at that first round spot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And we're gonna talk about that here in a little bit with another player that has come under a cloud of uncertainty. But for right now, earlier today, the free agency tidbits, the names that I kept seeing the most come across my social media timeline. A couple of defensive ends, Carl Lawson from Cincinnati and Trey Hendrickson from New Orleans. The Vikings were in on or trying to pursue. Joe Thuney was mentioned, but like we said, he got signed by Denmark. No, wait, Kansas City. Shaquille Griffin, the cornerback from Seattle. Wide receiver Keenan Cole and wide receiver Kendrick Bourne from San Francisco. And then safety Will Parks from Denver. were names that were rumored to be tied to the Vikings. Drew, do you see of those guys that we just mentioned, Lawson, Hendricks, Tooney? Well, can't count Tooney. Lawson, Hendrickson, Griffin, Cole, Parks, and Bourne. Is there a guy on there that you think the Vikings must get?
And before we get too far into it, Bourne is already gone too. He's gone to New England. So
Okay.
he's out.
All right, I'll say Bourne then.
That's what
You know
timing's all about, man.
You know what, Ted? All those guys you just read, we're getting them all.
You think so?
And we're going to get J.J. Watt, and we're going to get Deshaun Watson. All of them are going to be in Minnesota. Every damn one of them.
I want you to be our GM, my friend. Make it happen.
Make the call. Rick,
make the call.
Jesus,
Make the call.
Man. You can't sign everybody. We're not going to go crazy in free agency. Let's let everybody know that now. The Vikings aren't going to be out there like what the Patriots signed 4 people today. I mean,
yeah, they did. They were doing. They're like the new Washington football team. It looks like just signing everybody off the street in free agency.
The Vikings aren't going to sign 4 guys the whole free agency period. I mean,
no,
I don't see it.
Not unless they clear some serious cap space.
No, not anybody on that list. I really don't see them. You know who I like is the Bengals. Remember Lawson?
Carl Lawson?
That guy destroys pockets. That guy puts pressure almost every snap back in the backfield. He looks like I saw some footage on him today because I wasn't really familiar. I like that guy's style. Gets low and kind of does a little Chris Dolman move. He looks like a guy that's on the edge of superstardom.
Really?
So yeah, if they could make a move for him, man, I'd be all for it since I don't know what's going on with Hunter. So
and he's the kind of guy that the Vikings tend to like go after in free agency, dude that's just finished his first contract, dude that still looks like he's on the way up, kind of like they did with Linval Joseph back in 2014. And, you know, as long as Andre Patterson is hanging around the Minnesota coaching room, I can have faith that a lot of defensive linemen can get, you know, leveled up significantly under that guy's eye. So, yeah, that'd be the kind of guy that I think the Vikings would try to go after in free agency. I don't know if they can afford him, but they're going to probably go after him.
So Chris, is Lawson your top guy on that list of Lawson, Hendrickson, Griffin, Cole, and Parks now?
I definitely think he is. I mean, I don't think Griffin's a realistic possibility, but I'm not sure how realistic Lawson is either, but I think he's a more realistic possibility than Griffin or any of those other guys on that list is, quite frankly.
Yeah, there were 3 defensive ends announced, signed earlier today, and they all had some pretty good deals. And I don't know if that's something that the Vikings could afford. Now everybody talks about, well, they could backload it, and once we get to some more cap friendly years with the cap going up in 2022 and 2023, players might be willing to do something like that, but it doesn't look like it on the first day of legal tampering or free agency or whatever it is. But yeah, for me, I would think Lawson or Hendrickson. I just, of all the position groups the Vikings had last year, the defensive line, I think all the way around was by far the worst group. And they need, you could talk offensive line, and there were some issues there, but at least they had a couple players that you could count on and weren't too bad. But golly, the defensive line was just awful, and they have got to get some talent on that D line.
I was looking at that roster today. It's so thin and so terrible. It's bad.
And it may get worse.
Wait, I want to take a second. You know what? When we started this, people start popping in. I haven't had a chance. It's coming in fast and furious. It's coming in fast and furious, Jim. Do something about it, Drew. Dr. Proto, Mary Fist, the lovely Mary Fist, Reggie Adams, our barbecue smokehouse guy, Ray Hoagland, Ford Elliott, Emmer, Riley Emmer. I think your name's Riley. It says R. I'm guessing it's Riley. Everybody's showing up asking a lot of questions, so I don't want people to think we're not addressing their questions. It's really hard to keep up with this.
Yeah.
I just want to let them know that we see you. We see you out there, and I like all the questions. So if you guys want to pick a question as the show goes, I don't know.
Actually, let me jump in with something here that I'm seeing on the social medias here, according to
I don't
Pro
want people to
Football
think
Talk.
we're ignoring them or something. So
No, that's fine.
yeah, go ahead.
Pro Football Talk. the Vikings have had some initial discussions with Adam Thielen about a restructuring. A revised deal could create more than $8 million in cap space. So another guy that the Vikings are going to ask to restructure their deal, apparently, because we're going to probably see that a lot because there's no cap space.
What's he going to do, Ted?
So here's my question. They needed to start doing deals with players today, right?
Right.
They've only got $12 million. Why weren't they doing this 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
That's a really good question, and one that I don't actually have an answer for because it doesn't make any damn sense.
Do you got Rick? You still got Rick on your speed dial, Chris Gates? Get him on the phone. Let's ask him. Ted will ask him.
It frustrates. I mean, that's cool if they can get Thielen to do a restructure and get $8 million in cap space. That would take them, I think, to either 20 or 21 million, depending on what figure you believe. And that's a number you can kind of work with and get. And now guys like Carl Lawson or Trey Hendrickson become a little bit more realistic. So where was this? Where was this last week, 10 days ago, man? It just frustrates me that now all of a sudden, hey, why don't we call Adam Thielen? Maybe he could do something for us. How's that going to work, you think, maybe?
Maybe that's it, Ted. Maybe they figure it out as they go, and today it just, like a light bulb went off. Maybe, that's kind of what they do on things, isn't it? They kind of guess and figure it out as they...
It just kind of goes back to the Vikings just sort of being ham-fisted and not having much of a plan. I mean, I would have had this plan worked out 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Now maybe Thielen up until today said, no, I don't want to restructure. Oh, okay. That I mean, I'm not behind the scenes. I don't know what's going on, but I mean, I believe the tweet said, Chris, the Vikings approached Adam Thielen, right?
Let me get the exact phraseology here on the had initial discussions with Adam Thielen about a restructuring.
Initial discussions.
Yeah.
Today.
I mean, what? Maybe Rick was on vacation. I mean, who the hell knows? I don't know.
I'm going to Cobble Wobble. We'll talk Monday.
See him out there at Sammy Hagar's concert.
Jeez.
We need to free up some money. Free up some money.
The Vikings got more holes than Julius Caesar at the end of his day in the Senate, and now just today they're talking about helping out with Adam Thielen. Just today. That's good. That's great.
You go over this like 3 weeks ago, a month, even 2 months ago. There's a lot of time to go over this. Ted's got a great point.
I don't know. Look, hopefully something will get done and they'll have more cap space. But now, if it takes another 1 or 2 days, I would think guys like Lawson and Hendrickson and Keenan Cole and those guys are going to be off the board. And now you're already looking, and not that Carl Lawson is a bad player, but he's not one of these elite guys that we talk about. He's one of those guys that Chris talked about that the Vikings like to go after. Young guy coming off his first contract, really hasn't reached his potential. And so they target guys like that. And I would think if they wait too much longer, a guy like Carl Lawson's going to be off the market, and now they got to go one step lower. A guy can maybe coming off his second contract who might have had an injury, and they could get at a discount. But now you're doing the whole, can he play? Is he healthy? And all that kind of stuff. It just kind of gets frustrating. That's just me.
So Ted, I think I saw something from you earlier today about somebody. I think somebody mentioned the possibility of an Everson Griffin reunion. You said you're not buying it. And
no,
I think I agree with you on that. But I mean, like you said, he might be one of the guys that if you miss on a few guys, you might have to take a run at him and see what happens. But yeah.
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, if those guys you're targeting go before you can get cap space to sign them, Everson Griffin becomes, I think, a real possibility. I would, like to see the Vikings move on and get better, because does an Everson Griffin signing, does he make the Vikings better in the long run? Drew?
No, I think he just fills a gap, fills a spot.
Is he a short-term? Does he short-term help, you think?
I
mean, obviously, I think he helps short-term, because did you see what we ran out there last year? I mean, good God almighty, it was
yeah, but if you just trying to upgrade from what we had out there last year, I mean, I don't want to rip on Griff. He's been a great player, but he's not in the prime of his career now.
Well, no.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue he'd be a short-term solution to a long-term problem. And the Vikings are still going to have to address defensive end either next free agency or in the draft or whatever.
Call that Hendrickson guy from the Saints. That guy, now you want an upgrade. That dude's a madman.
Yeah. I mean, but can they afford him?
No, they can't. I don't know who they can afford. I mean, it depends. Are they gonna meet with some more players tomorrow to renegotiate to grab up another $300? I mean,
I don't know. Throw him. I'll throw my stimulus check. Maybe that'll help.
Do you guys have any idea off the top of your head how much? I don't know. I'm just asking this question. There may be somebody that's listening to the show out there on our live broadcast. So cool. How much money has Kirk Cousins made since he's been in the NFL? Roughly
$11 billion. Let me see if I can. I'm sure the folks from Over the Cap have something about that. Let me see if I can.
It kind of goes to a point. Now, I'll preempt this by saying I'm the first guy that thinks if you make a deal, you sign a deal, you get your deal. And if the people in the company mess it up, that's their deal. But that being said, I'm a team player too. And if I had $570 million and I needed to restructure, I'm all about my teammates when it comes to that. So I understand both sides of it. I don't think a guy should just be giving back money because they made dumb deals on something else. But there's a difference of a guy making $8 million in this league retiring and a guy making $300 million.
Yeah.
Made a lot of money. Count the Redskins money, all that. He's made a lot of money, dude.
Okay, so
yeah.
I'm looking at overthecap.com here, which is pretty much my go-to site for this kind of stuff. Earnings by team. So Washington, 6 years, salary $46,469,288. 3 years with the Vikings, $94 million. So you're up at around about $140 million in his football career.
It's not my place to tell Kirk Cousins what to do with his money. He negotiated that deal. The Vikings gave it to him. He doesn't have to give him a cent. But I'm saying, dude, if you have $137 million and the tough part is, guys, like, you know what, Ted? When you see your teammates restructuring to try to help, how do you not help when you make more? I mean, that's tough. And then go out and practice with him. Practice with a guy that's giving back some of his money to make the team better. He must, the guy must say, you're a dick. I mean,
then I'm going to take the dick point of view. I mean, look, here's the thing. The Vikings didn't have to give him an extension.
No.
I know. It's not his fault. I'm just kind of
and they didn't have to guarantee his 2022 salary the third day of this league year of $45 million. I mean, I'm not gonna, if a player wants to give back money, that's fine with them. But I get your point. But even if let's say Kirk gives up $10 million, $15 million, let's just hypothetically, does that give them, like, if I'm Kirk Cousins and I give back $15 million, the way this organization is being run right now, am I confident that $15 million is going to be well spent to put a winner on the field?
No, and that's what I agree with you. That's where I agree with you. I'm on the player's side. I mean, we had posts like this for the last month, and I'm always taking the player's side. People are ripping on me, so I'm kind of taking their side today for the sake of the discussion.
I get it.
You're exactly right. And I use that restaurant term. Are you going to invest in a restaurant? Some guy has a restaurant, and he names it Ass Wipes. Are you going to invest in that restaurant? Are you going to give money back to the Vikings when Spielman's running it?
That's just it.
And so I get that. I get that 100%.
It's it's French.
A sweepe.
Thank you. Hey, by the way, let's shout out Vicologist. Put up the number 140 million. He had the exact count. So thank you, Vicologist.
Thank you.
Nice.
And that just kind of goes back to the whole organization right now just seems disconnected and out of sync. And when you put in, the Kirk Cousins stuff and the free agency, and now they're just start talking to Thielen today. and this disconnect that Zimmer seems to have with Spielman, or the players have with the front office, and Zimmer and Spielman might very well be on the hot seat.
All right.
Is Minnesota a desirable place right now to come play if you're a player, Chris?
Not really. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen at quarterback because you don't know what's. I mean, we've talked about Cousins' salary being guaranteed, for 2022, but beyond that, there's no idea what's going on. The defense has holes, and you're not going to be able to fill all those holes with the money they have because they've allocated it to other places. So, I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, we're obviously biased. We like Minnesota. We think it's a nice place, but that doesn't sell a lot of NFL players. And it's just, there's just not a whole lot they can do.
Drew, I mean, if you had an offer on the table, equal value from the Vikings or Team X, would you want to come to Minnesota with all the uncertainty that's going on right now?
Welcome to Asswipes. Can I take your order? Yeah, I think I'm just gonna have a water. No, I'm probably looking at Team X. Just it doesn't feel like there's a good standing in Minnesota, or they have a good plan. I don't think they have a good plan. I think they're figuring it out as they go. I think no, I wouldn't. It's not a desirable place. They have to be talked into it by Cook or Thielen or some other person that was, I think when players talk, Ted, when they call the Viking guys, they probably answer them with a raised eyebrow saying, I don't know if I'd do that, dude.
And it's frustrating me because it seems like even 3 years ago, between 15, 16, 17, Minnesota seemed like a place people wanted to come. I mean, the Kirk Cousins signing, Sheldon Richardson, they extended all their core guys that they wanted to extend, and it just seems to kind of have gone off the rails. So
feels like that, yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of going off the rails, folks, right when we were waiting for some big free agency news to hit, Chad Graff of The Athletic tweeted out basically to the information to the extent that Danielle Hunter still isn't happy, and if he doesn't get a redone deal, the Vikings are going to look at trading him. What do you guys think happens ultimately with Danielle Hunter, Drew? Does he get traded or does he stay?
I think he gets traded.
Do you really?
Yeah, and I think it's going to happen sooner than later. That's just kind of how I feel. I actually thought of a little scenario today with Danielle Hunter, and I wanted to throw it out there, but I'd like to get let's see what Chris Gates says first and whether he thinks he's going to be here or not.
Chris, do you think he's going to get traded or are they going to work something out and he's going to stay?
I mean, you look at the situation, you wouldn't think Danielle Hunter would have a ton of leverage here. I mean, he's coming off a serious injury. I mean, he's got 3 years left on the deal, but I mean, we saw it with Stephon Diggs last year. Stephon Diggs may have actually kind of set up the blueprint for this kind of thing, I guess, because, there were some quieter rumblings about it at first, and then the rumblings got louder, and then all of a sudden, right before free agency last year, Stephon Diggs is a Buffalo Bill. And, people can say they saw it coming. I don't know how many people actually saw it coming. I don't think very many did. But, I mean, I would like to think that Danielle Hunter is going to stay. I don't know what the bad blood or if there's any bad blood between him and the team for, how things might have gone behind the scenes or anything like that. But, my heart says I want him to stay in Minnesota, but, like what Drew was saying, my head is kind of starting to think that, he might not be here next year.
Yeah, it kind of, and people were talking about his extension and the money he made or he signed for, and it was kind of right at the market deal, and now the market has kind of gone up for defensive ends, but Hunter hasn't played. And my whole thing on this is again, when Hunter signed, and you talk about teams or players taking hometown discounts, I'm not a big fan of that, but I could maybe be convinced that Hunter did kind of take a little bit less money. But when he did that, the Vikings were really invested. They were close. They were invested in putting a winner on the field. And I think he said, well, okay, I'll just sacrifice a few dollars now. Maybe we can get over the hump and we'll go from there. And now that it feels like they're getting farther away from that pinnacle of winning it all, he's just saying, you know what, pay me. I gave you a break. You didn't do anything with it. Now pay me. And if that's the case, I mean, I agree with you, Chris. I don't think he has a whole lot of leverage. I mean, it's a lot harder to hold out now with the CBA and all that other stuff. But I would also argue his leverage is just play some video of the Vikings defense last year. And we saw how sorely he was missed. So I don't know.
You know how he counters that leverage? He counters that leverage, and I agree that the Vikings have the leverage on him, but you know how he counters it? He also knows, going back to what Chris Gates just said, Stephon Diggs, if he plays it that way, soon as the thing got to eruption level with Diggs, they got rid of him in like 24 hours. He knows that, and he knows that if he gets that way and gets his attitude, keeps pushing it and making it public, Zimmer doesn't want guys that don't want to be here. They'll get rid of him. They'll work a trade for him. I think that outweighs the leverage because he knows the more harsh he gets. Remember, it was kind of building with Diggs, and then all of a sudden he's traded.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And then whatever happened on Twitter, remember, he kept pushing it, and he knows what he was doing. But you're gonna if you're just gonna get rid of a guy because he doesn't want to be here, then the leverage thing doesn't matter financially, does it? Does the contract matter if you don't want him here?
No, I guess not. No, that's a good point. And yeah, if Diggs set the precedent, he got out of town. He kind of made big enough stink, and the Vikings acquiesced. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly right. It's a blueprint. Very good. Very, very good. Very good analogy or phrase, whatever. I'm losing my mind. I can't think straight right now.
Yeah, look at a lot of comments. Thank you, everybody, for being part of this tonight. This is really cool.
So, Drew, you said you had a kind of a trade idea or scenario or something like a floor that you'd accept. What are you thinking about for if assuming now this is the Neil Hunter trade, right?
Yeah. This is just all the reckless speculation that we all talk about in the off season. We're going to trade 1,900 first-round picks and get Deshaun Watson. I'm just throwing it out there to give the people that are in our chat right now, maybe they can fire back and tell me how they feel about this. But what? You want me to throw it out there now?
Yeah, go ahead. What do you got?
Go for it.
What if the Vikings reached a point with Hunter where they told him and his agent, you know what? We're going to work a trade because we know you don't want to be here. So what if the Raiders called? What if Gruden and Mike Mayock, put your hand in the dirt, Mayock, what if they said, I really want Hunter. He's got to be a Raider. What if they called the Vikings and they said, we'll do this. We'll give you our first round pick. We'll give you we'll give you a third from next year. Or we'll give you a second from next year, and we'll give you Henry Ruggs.
So a 1, a 2, and a 3, and Henry Ruggs?
Yeah, well, we'll give you our first, our second, and Ruggs of this year, all this year, not even next year.
And then a third next year.
Yes. What if they said that? First, a second, Henry Ruggs, and a third in 2022.
See, there's a lot of offenses or a lot of teams that I think that's an acceptable thing for. But here's the thing with accepting that deal if you're the Vikings. Having a third receiver like Ruggs that would line up out there with Thielen and Jefferson or whatever is such a huge and radical departure from what this team wants to do offensively. But Ruggs would be wasted here pretty much. I mean, I don't have the data in front of me for like formations and personnel groupings or whatever, but I got to imagine the Vikings percentage of 3 wide receiver plays has got to be way down toward the bottom in the National Football League. So, I mean, I don't know. You guys have talked about tight ends and wide receivers in this draft class already. And, like I said, I think a high end wide receiver 3 would probably be wasted here. So I don't know. I mean, the first and the second and the third would be nice, but what are you going to look like? You've already said about several things on this episode here. What are you going to do with those selections? Are you going to, use them on something that's going to push this team forward? I don't know. Are they? We don't know. So, I mean, that's a solid deal, but like I said, it would represent such a departure from what the Vikings want to do offensively that I don't know if I don't know if it would make sense for him to do it, quite
That's a
frankly.
great take. That's a great take. Almost like
Yeah.
if you wanted to give us a player, you got to give us somebody other than Ruggs because we don't need the receiver.
I think if Hunter is intent on not staying if he doesn't get his contract redone, and the Vikings are intent on not redoing his contract, because I can see the argument for both sides. He's coming off a neck injury. Why would I pay you more money? Well, because I had more sacks than anybody else in NFL history through first 50 sacks. That's why you should pay me. I mean, I get both sides of the argument. I do. But I would take that deal. I would. I mean, because you're not going to get, it's a good deal. And I don't know if you refuse to trade Hunter and you refuse to redo his deal, what the long-term ramifications are for that.
Right.
Because I mean, he's one of the best players in the NFL if he's healthy. And now you're just kind of, hey, no, just kick rocks, pal. Come play.
And I'm not saying it's a bad deal. I think it's a good deal, but like I said, you would have to get Zimmer to sign off on the idea of not using 2 tight ends all the time. You would have to get him to sign off on putting more 3 wide receiver sets out there. Otherwise, you've got a guy who I think Ruggs was like the number 11 or 12 overall pick last year, and you're just going to have him wasting away there. So, it's not. I'm not saying it's a bad deal. I just don't think I would see the Vikings actually doing that deal if it was offered.
You guys got to bear with me, man. I can't. It took me 4 hours looking down the roster of the Raiders to find a guy worth us getting.
You didn't think Foster Moreau was?
No. The island of Foster Moreau.
Island of Foster Moreau. Yeah.
What up, dog?
Nice.
No, I would probably do that deal if we could work out a different deal with the player, because everything you said about Ruggs makes a lot of sense. I mean, the guy is dynamic, vertical threat. He's fast. He can catch. He's a great receiver. I mean, we all know what Ruggs can do, but you're right. Positionally speaking, if I had to have a player in the deal, I like all those picks, a first, a second, and a third next year. If I could get, I have to go down and look at it real closely, but if I could get another position, like maybe a safety or something, I don't know. I would probably do it too.
So let's take Ruggs off the board and convert Ruggs into another first round pick next year. So
now we're rocking.
Now you get.
Woo!
Would you move Hunter for 2 first round picks and a second?
Yes.
Would you, Chris?
So.
Yeah,
definitely. I think I would.
I would too. So let's do this, and we'll wrap it up after this topic here, this question. If let's just play this out and say hypothetically the Vikings do trade Danielle Hunter, and they get, I would say as a minimum, an extra first round draft pick from whoever.
That's big. If they get that, we lost the trade.
No, but I mean, so that.
No, I hear you.
Ted, you went mute.
Unmute.
How about now?
There you go.
There you go.
All right.
So assume they have 2 first round picks this year, and whatever the particulars of the Hunter trade are. How does that affect the Vikings draft strategy then, with Danielle Hunter getting traded? Chris, what do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously you've created another hole at defensive end at a place where you didn't have any, room to create a hole. I mean, they literally have nobody at defensive end right now behind Danielle Hunter. So, you would have to use one of those first rounders on some sort of an edge guy.
Hold on. Something. We're not going to tolerate any Stephen Weatherly disrespect on this show.
Hey, okay.
What? Ted,
Sorry,
Ted. Is he just forgetting about Wanham? I mean, come on.
Wanham, I don't. Never mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you would have to use one of those first rounders on an edge guy, just because you don't. Okay, with all due respect to Weatherly and Wanham and whoever else, you would have to grab somebody at that position without thinking twice. So unless you want to take both of those first round picks and move up to take Trey Lance, quarterback, North Dakota State, or something just insane. Because you could do that with 2 first rounders if you wanted to.
You could, yeah.
But
yeah, it opens up the door to that whole discussion, then, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, Vikings Twitter would love that. I'm sure that would be just awesome. Just shoot me into the sun. Yeah. Yeah.
Drew, how does that affect? What would your thoughts be on the Vikings draft if they trade Hunter and they have that extra first round pick and whatever else?
Well, part of what we talked about earlier, remember we talked about Lawson coming over from the Bengals?
Mm-hmm.
I think he is drastically going to be hurt if Hunter isn't there. I think that's what would make him good, is if Hunter's on the other side.
Yeah.
I think he's just, like you said, he's just another guy without Hunter there.
Yeah, he'd still be a good signing and a substantial upgrade, but I kind of thought Daniil Hunter and Carl Lawson could be like this really good tandem, kind of like we thought Hunter and Yannick Ngakoue could have been last year. But without Hunter, I think Lawson is just a 6 or 7 sack guy.
You know what I'd still probably do at 14? I had whatever the Raiders, I don't know what pick they are. See, I got their first round pick. I got pick 14. The Raiders are picking at what?
I'll look it up here.
They're 20 or something, 22?
I think they're 17.
No,
okay,
they didn't make the playoffs, so they'd be ahead of. Yeah, they wouldn't be in the 20s anywhere. 17.
All right, so we're at 14. We're at 17. I would probably trade that 14 back to like 23. So I'd have 3. So I'd have trade back there and then pick up a second and get another first and try to bunch them all together. But whatever we're going with the particulars, we would have to get somebody on the edge. If Hunter's gone, you have to get somebody early. And I don't really, I'm not going to start my edge rush specialty research stuff till next week. So I don't know I don't know the talent that's out there at edge, but you are creating another hole.
That would be, if they trade Hunter, I'd almost be to the point where I would support just a full blow it up and go into full rebuild.
Go get your quarterback and throw all these picks at somebody and go get your quarterback.
I don't know about that. I mean, because you still have Kirk's contract and you've got a couple years or whatever. But yeah, I just, you kind of took last year with all those guys being hurt. And if you're thinking the Vikings are a playoff team, Hunter's a big part of that. And if he's gone,
I
don't know.
The only problem with this is that you are not going to get a full-blown rebuild because
no, you're not.
Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer know that they are coaching and GMing for their jobs.
That's
year.
true.
If this year goes like 4-12 or 5-11, those dudes are out of a job. Knowing that they don't want to start a full-blown rebuild that they know they're probably not going to get an opportunity to finish. So that's not going to happen as much as we might want to see it.
I want to answer you, Ted, by making this clear. I want Hunter to be a Viking. That guy is so generational. He is so talented. That guy is going to rack up 200 more sacks, dude. I want him to be here, and I want him to be a Viking. That's what I want, first and foremost. But I'll tell you this feels a lot to me like that Diggs thing was going. It feels just like it.
It kind of does,
The negative cloud is moving in. That guy's getting a little bit angrier and angrier. I see it happening the same way that shit went down. That's what it feels like to me. That's what it feels like. I don't want to lose him. I want him to play for the Vikings this season. But if he doesn't want to be here, he's going to find a way out. Believe me.
I think you're 100% right. And I will say this. The Vikings got extremely fortunate / lucky that the Philadelphia Eagles didn't pick Justin Jefferson. And the Vikings got really lucky with Justin Jefferson, and he blossomed. And he's a great player, and I love him. He's a great player. But I don't know that there is a guy on the edge in this year's draft that the Vikings could take. I'm sorry, I'm just not a Kwity Paye fan. I'm just not. I'm not a big Greg Rousseau fan, and those are the two names I hear the most on the edge. I don't think there's a guy that could come in and do what Hunter has done in his time here in Minnesota. So I think it would be a big downgrade at the position, even if they were to pick an edge guy in the draft.
It's you rarely strike lightning getting rid of a Diggs and getting a Jefferson. That rarely. Let's face it, that's lightning. That's striking lightning. That never happens. And people are going to use that as saying, well, if Hunter goes, we'll just replace him like Jefferson did. It doesn't. It rarely happens, folks. It does. You're not going to get the same. The Vikings, it's huge. It's huge that Hunter play. We're not going to the playoffs if we trade that guy. That's how I feel.
And I've been trying to keep hold of these comments, and I'm sorry I haven't gotten to more. But I just saw this one come off from Ryan Johnson. When your superstars all start lining up and wanting out, that should speak volumes. I think Diggs and Hunter are different circumstances, but I think Hunter's a lot more money based than Diggs, who just wanted out because he didn't like the offense or the team. But it's still weird that 1 year your top offensive player wants out and gets traded, and now the second consecutive year it's your top defensive player, and he's rumbling about getting out. It's just frustrating.
Well, Chris,
totally agree.
Chris, could it be anything where Hunter looks at the rest of the D line and says, "My God, I don't want to play here"? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, if you watched any of the tape from last year, that's what he's saying. I mean, damn. I
mean, he's a lot happier with Linville Joseph and Everson Griffin, right? When he's
he
playing
sure
here?
was. He sure was. I mean, Linval and like you said, Linval and Everson, and I mean, the Sheldon Richardson year, the year he was here, and Tom Johnson was even putting up numbers when he was here, and last year the guys were just bad, and I mean, some of that was from not having Hunter on the field, obviously, but there's a lot of those dudes just didn't look like they belonged out there. And when we saw that game in New Orleans, where at the end of the season, where the Saints were picking up like 7 or 8 yards a carry just whenever they wanted to,
right?
It was awful. And I mean, I know they're NFL guys. I know they've worked their asses off to get to where they are and everything, but they just didn't look like they belonged on the same field. It was awful.
Vikings better be sending some people to Hunter's house to give him some hot buttery nut rubs right about They need to get that guy in a good mood, because right now he ain't in a good mood, and you want that guy. That guy is dynamic player.
You want him to be angry on the field, not off it.
Yes.
Meow meow.
All right. So with that, I think that'll about do it for our live show for day one of NFL free agency, legal tampering.
Can people still see us? Are we still live?
We are still on. Yeah.
I'm new at this, Ted.
I'll tell you what. Let's take it around the room one more time. Chris, you got anything? What are you looking for, or any thoughts as we move ahead into free agency for the Vikings?
I mean, I just don't know how much this team is going to be able to do in free agency, if they're going to be able to do anything. I mean, I know they keep clearing out space, but it's not enough space to do anything of any real significance. I mean, the good part about that, I think, is that with the cap going down the way it is, I mean, Jacksonville and New York can't sign everybody. So there are going to be some dudes that are going to be willing to take some 1 year, like prove it type deals, in the hopes that everything goes way up again next year, they can get paid. But yeah, I wouldn't anticipate a whole lot of action for this team, at least in the early stages of the free agent process.
Drew, what are your thoughts? What do you look forward to, or thinking the Vikings should do in the coming days?
They're not going to do much in free agency. I think I'm going to use my time here to talk about how cool it was having Chris Gates on the show. I'm wondering if that Tostitos bag is full or empty. I've been wondering the whole show.
That is my Mary Fisk supplied.
Nice.
Mary Fisk.
Nice.
Mary Fisk is in here tonight.
My hate week bag. I can't remember which week it was. I won the hate week thing the 1 year, but yeah, that's where that's from.
I got this from Mary because I won a contest too.
They are unopened. For the record.
I won this from Mary Fisk on the contest she had going at the end of the year at the Super Bowl. But I'd like to use my little bit of time to talk about the draft party we have in 50 days, guys.
Let's go.
That's why we did this, to see if this live stuff will work, to see if it'll work. It's working. It's working mighty fine. And I want to make a little announcement right now. I didn't announce this yesterday because I didn't want a bunch of posers in here trying to steal name chips to go into the hopper for the Justin Jefferson jersey.
The hopper.
Everybody, I'm not announcing this right now. Everybody that's in here live with us gets an entry to the Justin Jefferson jersey. I'm doing it right when I get done. Right when I get done with the show, I'm going to fill out the name chips, and they go into the Crown Royal bag, because that's what our hopper is, a big-ass Crown Royal bag. And everybody that took the time to join us tonight is going to get another entry. And let me tell you, since we started this contest in episode 5, we have 8 people that have entered every week. That's 7 entries for Coop. Joshua Yee, Jason Feinhag. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm hoping you're German. That's Feinhag. Dan Lee, Mary Fisk, Dr. Proto, D. Gatz, and the great Kyle Dom. They all have 7 entries. You can enter every week. And if they took the time to enter 7 times, I was going to read their name off tonight. But everybody who showed up tonight, everybody gets a chip in the hopper. Thank you.
Well done. So what Drew's talking about is our live draft show. We're gonna come back and we're gonna run it back, as they're starting to say is the catchphrase. We're gonna run it back on April 29th, Thursday, April 29th, 6:30 Central Time. It'll be the same cast of characters you see right now for the first round of the NFL draft. And during that draft, what we are going to do is give away a Justin Jefferson jersey. What Drew alluded to is during our regular weekly show, we have a secret phrase. All you got to do is find out what that secret phrase is. It's a big graphic on the screen that says this is the secret phrase of the show. Just write that in the YouTube comments and you're entered. If you were with us here tonight on the live show, you're entered. You've got at least 1 entry for the draft, and you can enter once per show up to, I think, 14 or 15 shows we're going to end up having before the draft. So you can have a maximum of 13 or 14 entries, however many shows we have prior to the draft. So Thursday, April 29th, we will be back here live. We're going to have a weekly show between now and then, though, and we're going to give away that Justin Jefferson jersey, and we're going to give away a couple other prizes, which we'll talk about later. So
One last thing.
Go ahead, Drew.
I am retelling the John Matuszak story, April 29th. How do you feel about that, Chris? Chris likes that story.
I'm here for it.
Out freaking standing.
The John Matuszak story is going to come back to life, everybody.
All right. So with that, on behalf of Drew, on behalf of Chris, on behalf of Toonsis, who got this whole technological stuff figured out for us so we could do this,
Thanks.
thanks.